Welcome to episode 60 of the Camerosity podcast, the world's #1 open source film photography podcast. My name is Mike Ekman, and we are back with another episode sure to fuel your gas addictions. At the end of the last episode, I hinted at a very special guest for this episode who unfortunately had to cancel. So the guys and I decided to pivot to a listener's choice episode where we invite as many people as we can to talk to us, tell us what they've been shooting lately, and ask any questions they have of us. Before we get started, though, we have to say hello to all the hosts. From Yellow Springs, Ohio, the bubble wrap and shipping container capital of the Midwest, is Mr. Paul Reibold. Hey, Paul, can you see your floor yet?
No, I haven't seen my floor since you shipped all that stuff to me.
Next, from Sydney, Australia, land of the official biscuit of the Camerosity podcast, is Mr. Theo Panagopoulos. Hey, Theo, what other culinary delights can you suggest for us?
Look, I think everybody knows about the Vegemite and all those kind of things, but one thing that actually I can recommend to everybody, the kangaroo jerky. So if you can get yourself some kangaroo jerky, I think you're in for a delight.
We'll just hop right out looking for that.
Finally, from Gainesville, Florida, fresh off the airplane from his trip to Tokyo, is Mr. Anthony Rue. Hey, Anthony, how long did it take for them to hand check all your film?
You know, they were surprisingly gracious about it. Even in Japan, where the guy doing the hand check was like amazed at all my film and like wanted to see my cameras. So you know, the guy at the border security was a film fanatic himself and was quite agreeable about it. Probably took him a half hour to get through it all, but it was quite nice.
I said this was a listener's choice episode, and boy, have you guys responded. There's 11 people in the waiting room right now, so let's let them in.
I think we have to ask them to come in single file.
All right, we have a loaded house. I see a couple returning callers, Mario Piper and his wife. Hello.
Hello.
I see Andrew Smith. Welcome back, Andrew.
How you doing?
I see Marcy Merrill. Marcy from Junk Store Cameras. Welcome.
Hey.
You've done some traveling recently too, haven't you?
Yeah.
Weren't you in Tokyo?
Yeah.
Yeah, so was Anthony. We'll ask you about that later. We got Patrick Raps from Arizona. Welcome back, Patrick. And then a couple more people who I apologize, I don't recognize your names. Bill Chou. Bill, welcome to the show.
So I'm the Bill in the Discord server.
Oh, hey, Bill. How you doing? Welcome. Tim Peters. Welcome, Tim.
Hello.
All right, where are you calling from?
Houghton, Michigan, up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
Michigan, okay. Sorry, Bill, I forgot to ask where you're located at.
California.
California, okay. We have another Bill. Bill Vitiello?
Vitiello, yep. I was just calling from outside of Philadelphia.
Outside of Philadelphia. Sam Kellett. Sam, welcome.
Hi there. From Vancouver, Canada.
All right, Canadian. Awesome. Joseph Schallmo?
Hello.
Welcome. Where are you from?
Also Houghton, Michigan.
Oh, another Michigan. All right. I'm up there quite often, so that's okay. AJ, welcome.
Thank you.
AJ is a recent joiner of the Discord server. I've spoken to you a couple of times, so it's good to see you on the show. And I'm very pleased at the chaos of your background. It looks very similar to mine.
Thank you.
That's nice.
I'm from Montreal, Quebec.
Montreal, Quebec. So we got 2 Canadians so far. We've been confined to North America. We're just going to go crazy. 2 more people just joined. I see Kyle Liu. Kyle's been on the show before. I believe he wanted to be here when we were talking about, I think it was the Easter. He wanted to talk about the Contax SLRs. We never got to those. And then Greg McCreash. Welcome back, Greg.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks.
Awesome. All right. So this is our listener's choice episode. For those of you, hopefully all of you here who listen to every episode, patiently waiting for the next one to drop. We've spent a lot of time over the last few episodes talking about specific brands or types of cameras. We covered Yashica and Nikon. We covered the partial East German industry. We knew there'd be no possible way to get through all the brands, but we spent a lot of time on Exactas and Praktinas and Veras. We've had episodes about panoramic cameras. We've had episodes about the Soviet camera industry. And as much as I love going down wormholes and talking my head off about the history and all the cool stories that I've unearthed while writing reviews, we wanted to do an episode like this to invite as many of you as possible. Tell us what you've been shooting lately. What are some things you've been doing? Are there any cameras that maybe you've ordered, any new gas that you've had, any new gas that you're looking for? Or if you have any questions of anybody here, myself, Anthony, Paul, Theo, or another guest. So I don't really know how to start with this many people, so I'm going to spin the wheel here. I love talking to so many of you, so I'm just going to go in the order of how it appears in Zoom. But Patrick Rapps, welcome back, Patrick.
Hey,
what have you got for us?
Well, it's been grabbing a hold of things. I'm kind of obsessed with panoramic cameras, at least currently, and that's my current gas. And I got a hold of a number one panorama. I have a number four that I've used, and this one wasn't working. They advertised that it's not working in the shutter, and believe it or not, I found a way to fix these dang things, at least get at them so I could fix the mechanism. A lot of the conventional wisdom out there is that it's glued together. You can't get at them. It's not true. It just takes painstaking work to get at the thing. So there. So I got some more light on it.
So was it actual screws under all the covering?
Yeah, you have to take, well, there's screws on this cover around this, but you have to really slowly pull off the leather, the chamois leather, the photo chamois that's on there, because it's stuck with glue on top of the screws. And once you get that out and you take the axle out of the bottom of the thing, the entire lens swings. You've got to unscrew the lens. But there's a bunch of screws that are all inside a space about this wide that are all at a right angle. So you have to turn them an eighth of a turn at a time. So they take some time to get out. But after that, you can get out. It's a pretty rudimentary camera, but the whole mechanism comes out.
So is the number one a 120 camera?
Well, it's a 105, but it becomes a 120 camera. Yeah. I got lucky enough that I have a 105 spool, which is the same width as 120, but it's a larger diameter spool. And so the gearing, it's, and I shouldn't say gearing, but it's meant to advance a little bit faster than a 120 would because of the size of this. And I was lucky enough, but you can just put some gaffer's tape on one and make it a little bit bigger. And that's, I guess that would work. So, and I've been able to shoot with it.
With the correct film, Anthony, you'd be able to get 6 exposures on a roll, but with 120, you get 4. So it's like Patrick said, it's like how 620 and 120, the width of the film is exactly the same. But in this case, 120 is actually shorter too. So, but it works fine. I've used a number one with 120 also.
I've seen your reviews on it.
Yeah.
Are you limited on the speed of the film? I imagine being such an old camera, it'd be fairly limited shutter speed.
Well, I got a trick for that. Because you're right. You got to. I was shooting with 100, and it gets a little bit exposed unless it's slightly cloudy. But I've got 2 things. I found a rubber washer that is just a O-ring that I can use to hold in a washer as kind of a rudimentary waterhouse stop. So I put a fender washer in there with a smaller opening than the lens. And the other thing is I've got a whole bunch. I mean, I've got 1,000 of the old Ratten filters. Just cut a Ratten filter like a red or something, and you're gonna lose 4 stops, and so you can get away with a little bit more.
When I shot mine, I used Portra 160. And I didn't have to do anything special, and it was within the latitude of that film.
Yeah, 100, it pretty much works. That's what I was using. But, I mean, if you want anything different, then you have to play with it a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's just fun to shoot.
Mario, is that also a panorama one?
Yes, it is. A friend of ours had it. It was their grandfather's, and so they just thought we might be interested in seeing it, and we messed around with it. I don't think we've shot anything in it, right?
I tried.
Yeah, but there's so many cameras we have. This is kind of on the back burner right now.
Should we all show our panorama ones? Who else has one? We got 3.
I got a number 4 as well, but I don't have it here.
Yeah, that's much larger.
Yeah, I converted it to 120, and that's got rails inside it, so there's a super long image. But
right,
I must admit that's not the camera I would have expected everybody to be able to reach for and bring out the camera straight away.
We got 3 though. That was
not bad. I just got it. That was why I did it. That was my gas.
That's his gas
acquisition.
Okay,
yeah.
That's his. Of the 3 questions we asked, that fell into the first category. Marcy, welcome back. You've been on this. Actually, been a while. It's a couple episodes ago since you've been here, but you always have fascinating stories. I follow you on Facebook, and some of your photography is very, very clever. You like to stage yourself in kind of interesting poses and such. So I always enjoy when you post your stuff. But what have you been up to lately?
Well, you brought up I went to Tokyo, and I got this guy. You had your Yashica episode, and I missed that. But this one here with the little
that's pretty.
Sailor boy totally attracted me. So anyway, it's a cute little yellow plastic 35 millimeter.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
believe it or not, this little thing, as simple as it is, I should have read the instructions because I didn't realize it's one of those. It's preloaded, but not only that, but it's already loaded all the way onto the rewind side. So as you take it back into the cartridge as you're shooting it. Okay. And for some reason, I thought it was going the other way. So in the end, I ended up opening it up on most of the pictures I took in Japan. But
that sucks. Well. What's that camera actually called? What's its name?
It says on it. No, I don't know what it says. It just says 35, and then it's got something that looks kind of like pen, but it's not pen. It's characters. On the back, it says MF1. That's probably more helpful. The MF1 on the back.
All right. We'll have to get a picture that I see. It looks yellow. It's like a plastic point and shoot.
It's drab yellow, kind of like a greenish yellow. And there were 4 colors. I think it came in 4 colors, and I chose this.
Yeah. That's
without
cool.
realizing it's all kind of play money in a way when you're there, and you don't really pay too much attention. And I think I spent $56.
Anthony, was that your experience?
Well, my experience was, now I probably went to 5 different camera stores, and boy, were they shooting for the sky, man. They were, $20,000 Leica M6s and just insanely expensive cameras. I was looking for just like oddball stuff that I might find in Japan that I wouldn't find elsewhere. And instead, what I found was like, a YouTube influencers wish list of the most expensive and rare and deluxe cameras. So I picked up film, but I did not pick up any cameras. I actually had a short shopping list that I was looking for, but nothing esoteric, nothing out of nothing that just like caught my eye as something that I wouldn't find easily elsewhere. But boy, at incredibly high prices for all the Leica gear and the lenses and even the Nikon gear. There's a lot more used Nikon than pretty much anything else, but even the prices on the used Nikon gear were high. So I stuck to just shooting. I didn't buy any cameras. If you had asked me before I left, would I come back from Japan without a single camera? I would have said not possible. But I certainly got priced out of the market at least the shops that I went to. And I was at shops in Osaka, Kyoto, and in Tokyo, in like 3 different areas of Tokyo.
Marcy, I didn't get a chance to tell you, but the last time you were on, you had that Mamiya U with the hand Sam.
Yeah.
And I actually came across one of those in a collection that I went through back in June. I think I did. I send that to you, Paul?
Yeah, I have it. And I have like 4 Mamiya U's, all of which have one problem or another. I don't have a single one that works.
Oh, geez. But the hand Sam, it's like a little holder.
I have
right?
the hand Sam, so I'm gonna. When I find one, I'll be set.
Mine works. It's just that shutter button thing is weird.
Is it? You have a problem with the film release button?
Yeah, it's just deteriorated the red.
That's what happened to mine. I have 2 of them that the collar around the button is gone.
Reach out to Bill Rogers. He's got parts for those. I've got 3 working, and I reached out to him, and he actually sent me. And apparently, the top plate's actually not attached, so you can actually replace that membrane quite easily.
Yeah. Well, I have at least 2 of the autofocus versions, and I think the other 2 are the fixed focus or manual focus. So yeah, I'll contact Bill.
I was gonna say he sent it out, and he sends you like a nice little picture diagram of how to actually change it too. So it's pretty handy.
Do you follow Bill on Instagram? If you don't, I suggest you do. He has some of the best explanations of what happens with Mamiya cameras and how to repair them. It's cool. just really good information and explanations of how he does things.
That's cool. It's very detailed. Yeah.
Our own Chris Sherlock. All right. Andrew Smith, welcome back. It's been a couple episodes since you've been on, though. So what have you been doing lately?
I've been kind of busy. So I was trying not to buy new stuff. So you know how that went.
Trying.
Yeah. So I got I know we talked about the Light Lens Labs and stuff from China. So I picked up one of their 35 millimeter f2 collapsible lenses. You can kind of see it collapse there. And this one's actually built in screw mount, but it came with an F-mount converter, and I've been using that on my Canon 7 and some of my Sony A7, and I've really liked it. It's a very high-quality lens, and it has really nice colors. It actually I'd say they did a pretty good job of getting that kind of Leica S color quality, but it does have a little vignetting around the corners, so they didn't quite match up to the Leica quality. But it was a pretty good try. I don't know if they're quite worth the money. A lot of them are selling for over $1,000 on eBay, but it's a pretty nice lens, and I like it. I'm going to keep using it. And just last week, I was at a antique store, and a guy had this he was selling on the side, and it's a Ricoh 500 with the sort of trigger advance.
Yeah, the trigger.
That's a pretty neat one. I've been playing with that some too, because I'd seen these around a lot, and I always kind of wanted one, but I'd never made the move. And this one was kind of reasonably priced. And it had a whole bag that was in nice shape with it had an old flash with flash bulbs, and it actually had a whole box of flash bulbs. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. So I picked that up as well.
What I really like about that Ricoh 500, and they made another one called the 519, which is similar. Yeah. It's got the bottom trigger. So it's like a Leica Vit, but unlike the Leica Vit and the Canon VT rangefinders, which travel in a linear line, Ricoh's swivels. In my opinion, that's a much more natural movement of your hand. So like if you were to hold, I don't know, Andrew, if you've ever used a Leica Vid or a Canon VT.
I haven't. I'm familiar with what they look like though.
The trigger moves on a linear track. Right. Whereas on the Ricoh, it swings forward. Patrick, you just held up something that had a bottom trigger. What was that?
No, it's a Ricoh 35.
Okay, so that still has the same one like Andrew's does? Okay.
Yeah, it's got the little...
Yeah, so you grip it. So for anybody who's never used a trigger, you hold a 35 millimeter camera like you typically would, but your left hand, picture your index finger, you wrap that under the bottom of the camera. Bill Chou's got one too. And you use either your index, sometimes you can use your index and your middle finger, and you pull the trigger. On the Ricohs, you actually, like your wrist swivels forward almost. So it's actually swinging out beyond the front lip of the camera in like a circular motion. The Canon Flex SLRs are the same way. And I found that to be a much more comfortable method than like the original Leica Vit, the KMZ Drug. The Soviet camera is exactly the same way the Canon VT Deluxe, which I recently reviewed. Theo, you have one too. Those all work in a linear line. And well, it's pretty neat. It's just not quite as like smooth, in my opinion, as what Ricoh did with the 500 that you have there. So
are the pack sets similar? Am I thinking of the right cameras there?
I don't think they made a pack set with the trigger. I could be wrong though.
I have a Calla. The Calla 35N has a trigger.
I think it
trigger
does.
There might have been.
I've got one of those pack set, but I'm not sure where it's at.
Right. Well, cool find there. Have you shot it yet, Andrew?
Yes, I did. I put a whole roll through it right after I got it. And I actually was surprised. The image results were a lot better than I expected, because a lot of those kind of cheap Japanese cameras have very generic, like anastomote style lenses. But I thought it looked really nice and better than some of the cameras I've used. And yeah, I liked it. And like I said, the Light Lens Labs was pretty nice as well. Not 100% sure it was worth the money, but it is pretty interesting. And supposedly all their stuff is kind of like limited edition, and they only make so many of each lens. And I think with the collapsible 35s, they're only making like about 1,000 in screw mount and about 1,000 in F mount. So they might end up being really rare and valuable someday, but it never seems to work out in my favor. So I don't know.
You know, back to the Ricoh, Riken was what they were called when that camera was made. But any camera that I've personally shot that had a Riken or Ricoh lens has done great work. Anthony, you and I are big fans of the Ansco Mark M, which has a Riken lens. I'm actually right now working on a review for the Sears TLS, which was a Sears Roebuck rebranded Ricoh camera. And I have the Rikenon f1.4 lens. And I shot a roll of high contrast microfilm. It's like no shadow detail at all. It's like literally black and white is all it can do, but it has no grain. And that lens resolved an incredible amount of detail. So yeah, that's a good value. Those Ricoh cameras are from the cheap Ricoh 35 all the way to the 500 and the 519. So those are nice finds.
Oh yeah, so one thing I want to talk about is like I think the later versions of the 500 have a larger viewfinder than the early ones. Yeah, the newer one, the viewfinders, they look much better, to be honest. And this one is it's like looking through like a Voigtländer like prominent or something. Like the viewfinder eye is like tiny.
Yeah,
it's really hard to look through it. There's no frame lines.
So Bill's holding up an earlier one, and Andrew has a later one, and I even through the zoom window I can see the later one is quite a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, the later one also has it's got sort of the frame lines kind of like a Leica or a Nikon SP where they're kind of fiber optic, I guess, and they're parallax corrected as well, which I was actually surprised by that. It seemed pretty high quality for
Very
a
nice.
camera of this age and everything.
Short story about my 500. So I actually got this from like my friend's dad, and the shutter is completely gummed up, like it's full of stuff. So I have to take this all apart and clean it and like recalibrate it like individually, which is really annoying, but it's worth it. I unfortunately can't test this right now because my local lab just burned down recently.
Like at fire, it burned
Yeah,
down.
fire. Yeah, it just burned down.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
it's really sad.
that stinks. But so, do you repair your own cameras, Bill?
Yeah. So most of my cameras, like my 635, my OM10 right here. Yeah, I got them when they're like all broken, so I got them like really cheap. For example, this one's like $40, and this one is like 25.
You got a
Yeah,
Yashica 635
635. Yeah, that.
for $20 and you fixed it.
Yeah, so the shutter is like lagging on low speeds, but yeah, it just needs lubrication and stuff.
Okay.
Geez, that cosmetically that looks fantastic as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you actually you polish them up? Yeah,
Yeah, the only thing wrong with it is that it doesn't have the 35 millimeter adapter thing.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the adapter's like really hard to find. There's like a lot more knobs just everywhere.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I had one. I'd send it to you, but that's one thing. You're right. I've never come across those
I think I do have an extra one.
for the Yashica.
Yeah, a 635 kit. I'm pretty sure I've got one in the basement.
I actually want to like I want to find like Yashica matte recently, but they're all like $200, which is something that I couldn't afford.
And I'm a fan of the matte, but we talked about this in the episode. But the matte ones have the automatic film counter, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
adds extra complexity to the mechanism. So there's more things to go wrong, more to get jammed up. I have a perfectly working Yashica matte, and I have a perfectly working Yashica D. And I'll tell you, I take the D 10 out of 10 times over the matte. It's just so much smoother. The controls just move with much less effort. That matte is just, even though it works fine, you can feel the linkages moving around in that camera as you're advancing the film. So I'm not trying to discourage you from getting it, but if you have a really nice 635, I don't know that a matte will make you any more happier, at least not in my opinion.
Yeah, so recently I just serviced my friend's early model what's that Rolleiflex, like the really early one from the early 30s. And like it's an absolute pain to service. Just stuff everywhere.
Well, that's exciting. I'm glad to hear.
I was gonna say that's impressive. I'm just really impressive that you're pulling these things apart and putting them together again.
So like they're not that hard, but they're just have a lot of components and like sort them.
Having a good workspace, good lighting. Don't do it in a room with shag carpeting for sure. Have a place to put your screws and little
So my
gaskets
desk
and
Mac is
springs.
actually like magnetic, so if I drop the screw, it's just gonna stick on there. But like for like non like metal screws, like
A lot of them are brass.
yeah, it's gonna be very annoying.
Awesome. Well, it's good to see. I'm glad to see people trying to take cameras apart. A lot of the old school, repair guys sometimes frown at novices learning on their own cameras, but to me, I don't know of a better way to get started.
So like so I recently got this bag. It's kind of VIT parts.
I have a couple bags like that. Yeah.
So I got this for like $7, I think, and I realized that's like a $500 camera. But apart, it's like I can't get this back together. It's just too hard for me.
Mario Piper, Mario, and I'm sorry, your wife is Julienne, right?
Yep.
Hi, welcome. You last time Mario was on, we heard your voice in the background, but we didn't see you in front of the camera. So so welcome. What are you guys? What's new with you guys with the Pipers?
Well, in my undying love of Spotmatics, as well as third-party 135 millimeter lenses, I found a Spotmatic SP that was completely unused, not a scratch. The shutter curtain was completely flat, brand new, flawless. And I have an Auto Sears 135 f2.8 on it, and I just love this camera. The meter actually works.
So it didn't have the mandatory battery door that's corroded on the bottom plate?
No, there was no corrosion whatsoever.
I don't believe it.
I have it fitted with I can't remember what the number is, but a really tiny battery.
Yeah.
But flawlessly.
Wow.
But that's an earlier buy a couple months ago. And then recently because of that camera, I wanted a Spotmatic ES, but I couldn't find one with a working meter, and everything I read about them was that the meters are pretty faulty. So I decided to go with a Nikon EL2. Love this camera.
Yep.
It works perfectly, and it's a masterpiece of design.
That was my very first Nikon film camera of any kind. I had no idea that it was an uncommon camera. You know, of all the Nikons to get, if you're new to it and kind of throwing a dart at the wall, like which one am I going to buy? That I ended up with an EL2 over a dozen other way more common models is just weird to me. But I fell in love with that EL2. And even though I have many other Nikon SLRs, many of which are more advanced than that camera, I still come back to it. For anyone who's not familiar, the EL2 is a Nikkormat. It's the only camera that they made in the Nikkormat family that they actually called Nikon. So it's a Nikkormat body, but with the electronics and features of like an FE. So if you've ever had a desire for an electronic shutter, auto exposure, you know, Nikon SLR, but in the larger, more mechanical body, the EL2 is the camera for you.
Yeah, I mean, the engineering behind these Nikon cameras is just stunning.
Right.
I think one of the things that I love about it, well, a couple of things I like about it in particular are in the viewfinder, you see the shutter speeds.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I love that layout. And also when you have it on AI or automatic, I guess it's aperture priority. I like aperture priority. And I think I saw on your website that it has infinitely variable shutter speeds between the parameters.
All the electronic Nikons did that. But what I really like about it is you have auto exposure, but even in manual exposure, it'll show you both what you've selected and then what the meter is recommending.
Okay.
So in a way, it's kind of like a match needle also, even in full manual mode. So if you're pointing it at a scene and it's recommending 125 and you have it pointed, or I'm sorry, manually set to 60 or 30 or something else, you can clearly see that you're off. So you could either match your speed with what it's suggesting or just do what you want, or just put it in auto mode and just let it pick a shutter speed for you.
Yeah, I just love this camera.
Mario, I feel like the luckiest boy in the world in that I have two Pentax ES that work perfectly. The
do you?
Are perfect. They are completely reliable. I shoot them both all the time. One of them came from a local retiree who had moved down here and decided to get into shooting birds. And so he went out and bought like a Canon with the ridiculous like 500 millimeter lens and was selling all of his film gear. So I think I picked it up for $25. But with the right lens, with the lens that's matched to those models that do this the proper metering, like I've got the 105 on there, and it doesn't leave that camera. And you know, I've got most of the Spotmatic models, but most of the time I'm going to pick up that ES just because they got it right. They got the size right. They got the feel right. You got to be able to shoot an aperture priority on it, which is okay.
Is that the ES or the ES2?
The ES, the ES.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I there's something about Spotmatics. I don't know. To me, they're gorgeous cameras. They're fairly simplistic, but they just have everything you need.
If you can get one, I'm just saying, don't give up on them because Jeff at that other podcast has had horrible luck with it.
Okay.
Don't let that spook you. That when you find one that works, they are kind of magical. They're really great cameras.
There's screw mount. It's a screw mount like a Pentax Spotmatic, but with auto exposure. So you could do it in full auto and it has the full selection of speeds, or you can set it to manual. Isn't it like 60 and above? So it does have limited manual control if the meter is dead. But I agree with Anthony. They're very well built. They're slightly larger than some of the other Spotmatics are. They don't require the teeny tiny battery of the S's like you had to deal with, Mario. So that's a plus too.
Way more exciting than I am. I'm kind of vanilla as far as like I like SLRs and that's about it.
Julia, what do you have?
Well, I got 11 cameras in the last 2 weeks.
Oh boy.
But I got the kinds that people don't seem that interested in. So this is a number 3 Ansco 3A Ansco postcard camera, and takes big rolls of film.
Big rolls
of film. 22, which is really fun. I rolled up paper. I cut paper and taped them all together. And
how many rolls do you have of 122?
Zero.
Okay.
This photographic paper.
So you actually roll the paper onto the spool.
Yeah. I just made out of printer paper this little backing paper. It's just printer paper. And I roll photographic paper up in it and stick it in there. But I like this one so much that then this one is
that could be my favorite camera hack that I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
That's amazing.
That's quite brilliant.
This is takes 3 1/4 by 5.5 inch pictures. And it works really good and interesting. In the old owner's manual, the times that it gives match photographic paper. So outside, if it's really bright, you can just do, what's it called? Instantaneous shutter speed, and it actually makes a picture. Indoors, it's 4 minutes with, it has 3 different apertures that you can choose from. But then I wanted a square shooter, so I found this one, which shoots 3.5 by 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and it's a Kodak Wino Hawkeye. It's a really weird name.
Nice. Is that also 122?
Yes.
Okay. I think I don't want to speak, but I am almost positive I have a couple rolls of that. I'll go digging in my crypt, and as soon as I find some, I'll send them off to you guys. At least you could have a real spool.
Wow.
That would be awesome.
That's a great idea. I'm going to try that. I've got 122 cameras.
Yeah, it works really well. And actually with this one, I just had some teenagers come over yesterday and we spent a couple hours shooting this. I didn't roll it for them. I cut single shots. So, you come inside, stick one on, close it, go outside, and they wanted to try ghosting. So we were doing 30-second exposures in the woods.
Oh, wow.
Trying to get ghosts in the shots, which we had marginal success. It needs more time to figure out how long you have to be in each position to get it really good. But I also got this.
Jesus, they're getting bigger.
I know.
This takes 103 film, I think. It shoots 4x5, but roll film. And it's a Kodak Bullseye, and it actually focuses. It has a focusing scale.
Oh, so it moves the whole reel back and forth there.
That's really cool.
So that it's really, I have to repair this door, but so you open this door and then you slide.
The focus moves the entire board back and forth. Yeah.
Inside.
So I'll try to describe this. She's holding up a very, very large box camera, but there's a door on the front where the insides come out completely. And that's basically like the film compartment. The box is literally just a box with the lens, right? And lens and shutter. Yeah. But it's separate from the film compartment. So when you focus it, you're independently moving it back and forth, change like you would on a folding camera would work. But it's not a folding camera, it's a solid box. Is that all wood then?
It is.
The entire thing? Okay.
Tongue and groove.
I have to say, for being 100-year-old plus cameras, those look immaculate. I mean,
yeah, they look really
I'm just
nice.
looking at them on Zoom, but boy, those look stunning.
They are.
Yeah, this one, let's see. The internet said they were made from 1896 to 1904.
Do you have Brian Coe's Kodak book?
No.
It's I could reach it, but I'd probably trip over the stuff behind me. But it has every one that they've made, the year it was made. It's basically like the McCowns, but of only Kodak. That's a good book for reference to date those old Kodaks.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mario got me. I'll only show you one more.
If she has to roll this thing in on wheels.
You think this is big? Just wait.
Oh boy. So we got looks like a studio camera. That thing's large.
This is a 5x7. It's an Empire State #2 with a pretty brass lens, but I have to get it serviced before I can use it.
It's gorgeous.
Are the bellows good?
Mm-hmm.
They're good right now, but I think with very much use, they're going to need help.
Yeah, like all the bells just like disintegrates over time.
Yeah.
I just realized that like the focusing Kodak box camera, that the mechanism feels kind of like that Contax camera that does autofocus, but by like moving the whole film plane forward and backwards. Let me see.
That's a good point.
Yeah, let me see if I can find one.
It's called the AX.
Oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, I actually kind of want one of these, but they're like kind of rare.
They're very rare, very expensive, and very likely to not work.
It's context. They're not known for their reliability. Okay.
Yeah.
But these old ones are pretty reliable.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of videos, I can't find that much information. Find a few videos on YouTube and people will show it and then they'll say, this isn't worth your time to shoot. And they never used it. Or they'll shoot it once and say, that was a waste of time. And I'm like, I feel like that's your opinion because some people like using them.
Yeah. That's the great thing about this hobby is that you can make out of it whatever you want. I mean, if you only want to shoot in Stax film, you can point and shoot, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. But some people like to go down these wormholes like your wife does. I'm somewhere in the middle. I prefer cameras to, that you just use how they're intended to be used without having to use printer paper to make my own stuff. I think that's awesome. I would love to have the time to do it. I just don't. But I applaud anybody who's using these things how they're meant to be used.
I do have a question though. You said you use printer paper for the backing paper. Is that light proof?
Probably not. But this particular camera, all of them, the red is actually gone on all the windows of them. So I just taped them and then I just...
so there's nothing coming in from the back. Okay.
Right.
So just guessing it.
Figured it's about 5 turns.
Okay.
We were talking about the panorama earlier. The very first panorama I shot was in horrible physical condition. The leather was peeling, the wood was cracked, the backs didn't even stay on correctly, but the shutter seemed to work. So if you read my review of that camera, you'll see that in one image, I actually took the entire camera and put it in a trash bag. And I cut holes where the knob needed to be, where the viewfinder was, and where the shutter release was so that I could at least act, and obviously a hole for the front lens. But I walked around with this camera in a bag, like a hefty bag, because I just knew it was leaking light from every direction. So if you ever run into a camera that you're not confident in its light sealing abilities, I definitely recommend the trash bag. And you got to use the contractor grade, like the 6 mil thick stuff. That's you use for like 55-gallon drums. That's
what I was going to suggest for that studio cameras. I've done that before. I've wrapped them in a dark cloth because I don't want to ruin the bellows and I don't want to pay for a brand new one if I don't use it that much.
Okay, so I actually have a tip for making your own bellows. So you can just get printer paper, like a really, really big one, and then you fold it and then you cover it in plastic dip. It's actually like light proof. And like I made one like half a year ago and it still works pretty good right now.
It doesn't stick to itself when it closes?
And you have to spray it like clear coat over it, but like it doesn't. And like it's held up pretty well so far.
You cover it with what? The paper with what?
Plastic dip. Like the spray paint that like
plastic
spray
dip,
rubber. Yeah.
Okay.
I used a liquid electrical tape, which worked great. The problem was even after it dried, when you would close it, the bellows would fuse itself to the other folds, and then the next time you opened it, it just would rip right off. So Plastidip, we'll have to give that a shot. It's a good tip.
Don't forget clear coat.
Clear coat. Okay, yeah. I didn't do that.
Oh yeah. So I would like to talk about my most prized possession, this Bronica ETRC.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's the camera that almost everyone just don't like for some reason. Like I went to every single camera show, flea market. Ask every single one that like know about cameras, and like everyone's just like, we don't talk about Bronicas here. So the lens is currently a little bit fogged up, which is really disappointing to be honest. And when I got this like half a year ago, it's not fogged up yet. So and I took some pictures, and like my friends can differentiate this between digital, which is really really good. 645.
The Bronicas are nice. I mean, a lot of the earlier ones use Nikkor lenses.
Yeah.
I don't think the C did. I think by then Zenza was making their own, right?
Yeah, Zenza.
Zenza, okay. Yeah. But the earlier ones, the chrome ones, and Paul, you might know better than I do. But at some point,
the EC, the Z, the D, I forgot what's that, C, and then you have the S2 and then S2A, ECTL. Yeah, those.
I think Sam's got one as well.
The ETRC doesn't have interchangeable backs, does it?
It doesn't. The back
has inserts, but not backs.
Yeah. So it just
right. The ETRS had interchangeable backs.
But like the reason I got the ETRC was like the ETRS was like $50 more expensive. I don't really use the function that much.
Oh, no, there's nothing wrong with it. I was just trying to remember the
Yeah,
difference between the two.
So this one, when I got it, I forgot like the exact amount that I got it for, but I think I got it for like $250, which is like a really good deal back in the day. But like it's just having a lot of issues. For example, like this piece on the winding knob is falling off, so I have to use like a special screw. It's still trying to fall off currently, and the counter inside is having a ton of issues. So yeah, I have to custom make some parts to fix it, which is annoying, but like the results are worth it, definitely.
Another issue you got to be careful of is, in addition to the foam light seals around the back, there's also foam underneath the ground glass. If it degrades, which most of them have, the ground glass actually lowers. It gets out of the proper film plane. And what ends up happening is you look through the viewing screen and you see a sharp image. The problem is that you're focusing outside of the proper film plane. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a sharp image, but the lens isn't, because the ground glass is not at the right level. So if you start to notice that all of your images, no matter what, you keep missing focus, that's the problem with those, is that the foam under the viewfinder needs to be replaced. All right, Sam Kellett, I just want to give you a chance to speak. You were holding up some cool stuff there while Bill was talking. You want to say hi and share your guess?
Yeah, I was gonna say to the Bronica thing, the other part is the foam underneath the mirror.
Yeah,
which is a huge. I had to do that with my my S2, which is why I was holding up the 135 Nikkor, because I was like, oh yeah, I had to deal with that, and it's because the shutter goes down, and like the mirror goes down instead of up. That's a whole
right.
I did it over COVID. It was a huge rebuild.
I have an S2 with the same problem, and mine's almost unusable at this point. If I'm ever going to use that camera again, I need to send it to someone to get it fixed.
Yeah, and nobody fixes them, which is a huge problem.
Right. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just got this, which is Agfa
ISO Rapid.
Yeah, it's the Rapid. Yeah, it's ISO IF, which is great. I bought it, and then I ended up going traveling, and I found another Rapid cassette in Bergen, of all places.
Paul has a Rapid cassette camera. He literally just showed on the board the Fujica, the Rapid S1,
the Rapid D1,
the Rapid D1.
Yeah.
That's the same, Sam, as what you're talking about. Use the same cassettes, and both the ISO flash you're holding and the one Paul has shoots square format, which if you like square images, is a nice little plus too.
Yeah, I remember because I bought it because Anthony talked about some square format quite a ways ago. But in the same shop, I got a 90mm f4 Elmar and a Nikon AF2.
Beautiful. That's a great point and shoot.
And then it's for my partner, and she's gonna really enjoy it. To what was Andrew? Yeah. I just got the Light Lens Labs Elcan, and so far has been a really, really good, lens. Definitely not,
Is that the 50mm f2 one, or?
Yeah, it's the 50mm L2 one, f2, compared to the $30,000, original. Like, can't really compare it, but so far so good.
Are you seeing the same vignetting he was talking about?
No.
I really only saw it in one image, and it was only on the Sony A7 when I was shooting digital, because I kind of looked around later and I saw that it wasn't as bad on the RAW, so it could have just been the camera didn't really have the sort of like what do you call it, like the metadata or whatever to kind of compensate for it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe I need to download something, but yeah, I like it overall. It's just I did notice it had a little bit of vignetting, and the other thing is the focus throw tab. It seems like that's a little, because it has that kind of screw on focus throw tab, kind of like an old Leica, and then actually kind of once I had to screw it back in a little bit. So that was the one build quality thing, but it is pretty good quality all in all.
So Sam, I'm actually a fan of that Elmar. I mean, as the second cheapest M-mount lens that you can buy, it's kind of a sleeper. I actually got some fantastic shots out of it.
I threw it on my Sony, and it's been really like, just like I threw it on the Sony just to test it, and it's really quite nice, and it's very low contrast. I had to actually take it apart and kind of clean out the haze a little bit, but it's so far like.
Paul will scoff at me because they kind of litter his shop as Just way too many of them floating around. But I shot the heck out of it and enjoyed it. So good find.
Yeah, it's a very light lens too, which is like, good for carrying around.
Well, thanks for sharing your stuff with us, Sam. Tim Peters in the Zoom Brady Bunch window. You're next. Welcome.
Well, hello. Well, I'm very much like you, Mike, and I have at this point, I think, over 200 cameras in my collection. So I get my choice of subject and camera too. But I have 4 right here that I've been shooting recently that I want to show off. So I'll begin that with similar to what we've seen earlier. This here is a Kodak #2 Bullseye Special, made in 1898. And if you've never seen one of these, well, this is, first of all, the best example you're ever going to see of one. It's in practically mint condition for what it is. It's currently loaded, so I can't show you the inside. But I converted it to 120. I made a pasteboard mask for the back to shoot 6x6. And the numbers, of course, line up because the window's right back in the center. And I machined out of aluminum 2 spools that I can actually re-spool the 120 onto and shoot it natively in here. So it shoots just like it would have back in the day. And even the viewfinder lines up. So I know a lot of these older bullseyes, the viewfinders get really foggy. I know I have a regular bullseye and you can't see anything through them. This one's perfectly clear, which I lucked out on that. So I've been shooting this.
Is that the one that they were selling that's sort of like aimed at private investigators and
no, that's the
like that
those are detective cameras. This one was more sold toward a wealthy person that wants to spend a lot of money on a high quality camera, but they don't necessarily know a lot about photography. Because as you can see, you actually have to open the front to change any of the settings. You have apertures of f11 through f32 and 3 shutter speeds. But I've had the shutter open fixing it. And literally all that does is it changes the tension on a single coil spring. And I tested the shutter speeds. It makes 0 difference. So effectively it has only about a 40th of a second shutter speed, but you have to cock the shutter using this lever on top and then fire it. It still works beautifully. So, and it has a rapid rectilinear lens in there. Now the next one, this one I'm going to have to stand up to show you.
Oh boy. I like this guy.
Manufactured in 1926.
Oh, yeah.
This one is a home portrait Graflex.
Falmer and Schwing?
Yep, home portrait Graflex. Yeah, it's just about the largest SLR you're ever going to see.
So real quick, Tim is standing upright. He's got the bottom of the camera at about belt level, and the top of his viewfinder is up to like his nose.
Oh yeah, this thing is massive. The way you have to shoot it is you take your glasses off, and the hood is actually the hood is so big you actually stick your eyes and nose into it so you can actually see the image.
Oh man,
it's massive, and it weighs about 30 pounds.
Well, I was going to say about the lens. It's about the diameter of a Coke can.
About the lens. The lens.
What film size is that one?
Oh, it takes Graflex back 5x7 holders.
Yeah, so, I know about. There's a beast.
Yeah, and just for size comparison, here's a Series B 3x4. It's baby next to there. So anyway, the lens on this boy, probably about half the weight in itself. It weighs 10 to 15 pounds. It's an old survey lens. Bausch & Lomb Tessar 1C, 305 millimeter f4.5.
Whoa.
I cannot overestimate the weight on this thing. It is massive. You can do curls with this. But it's an aerial lens, this particular one. Aerial survey lens. So that's massive.
Because I can't stop with trivia. You said Bausch & Lomb Tessar.
Correct.
So
Tessar 1C.
It's not a Zeiss Tessar. Do you know why?
I believe they still had the copyright on it. Did they not?
Carl Zeiss, was producing these lenses. This is pre-war. They only had so much capacity to build lenses. Their reach, their distribution wasn't good enough to supply the entire world with lenses, but they wanted to get their name out there. And everybody, even in the United States, knew that the Germans were very good at making lenses. So Carl Zeiss licensed some of their lens formulas to other manufacturers. Bausch & Lomb in the United States produced quite a few Zeiss lenses. And then Cook in England did. There might have been 1 or 2 others. I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically Zeiss gave them permission. It wasn't even necessarily a patent issue. I mean, they basically gave them the design schematics and said, build them to our specifications. You got to keep the name though. So at least yours says Bausch & Lomb Tessar, but there are a few that will say like Bausch & Lomb Zeiss Tessar.
Yeah, or like the Kodak Zeiss Tessars.
Right. It'll still get their name out there. It still gets their formulas out there. and the companies could say a German lens, but it is made by Bausch and Lomb in the United States to Carl Zeiss's specifications.
Yeah, it's similar to later on. I have here for my Eastman View 5x7 a Dagor, which is of course a Gertz design, but this was made under contract by Carl Zeiss.
Yep. So
it's very similar to that. Now, I said I had 4 cameras. The other 2 are probably more familiar to you guys.
Just before you move on to that, I've got one of those. I've got a Carl Zeiss Jenna Tessa 4.5, 25 centimeters here. It looks very similar to the one you were holding up earlier, the same sort of look and feel. And they've got one thing to note about these is they've got like about 400, well, those things inside. I've gone blank on the
400
word.
blades.
Blades, thank you.
They've got a huge
Like
number
about 400. Yeah, they've got so many blades inside. So yeah, so if you can use them on something, you can get some absolutely fantastic depth of field control on them.
Oh yeah, the original. If you look in the literature, the Bausch and Lomb catalogs from back in the day, I have a Tessar 1C 5x7 lens, the much smaller one, but it's 4 5x7. I keep that one mounted on my Eastman View, and if you read the original literature on this thing that Bausch and Lomb put out, they bill this as the greatest lens that has ever been made or will ever be made. And you think that when you mount it on your camera, it's going to shatter the ground glass because it's so sharp. I mean, there is some truth to it. Now I've shot it for a while now. And
are you in marketing by any chance, Tim?
No, I'm an engineer, but
okay, all right, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's a good lens. I cannot knock them for that. I have 3 Tessar 1Cs in various sizes, and what can I say? It's an excellent lens. It's a Tessar after all.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I'm excited to see what your next 2 are, but do you have sample images of those first 2 cameras?
Yes, I do actually. They would be on my Instagram though, so I would have to pull those up.
I was gonna say if you could share, at least a couple either on the Facebook page or on the Discord server, I'd love to see them.
Absolutely, I'll do that afterward. Sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the one I've been shooting a lot recently. Now, this is probably
S2.
Familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nikon S2, probably the most handsome of the Nikon rangefinders.
Absolutely.
I got this. It was marketed to me. It was sold to me by Used Photo Pro as this is a problem camera. It's there's some issues or whatever. Lo and behold, I bought it, and I bought the lens too. They're like, oh, the lens is hazed over. There's nothing wrong with this thing. Nothing wrong with it. It's gorgeous, and I've been shooting this.
Used Photo Pro. That's Robert's camera in Indianapolis.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And I believe me, I don't want to discourage them from doing this, but I too have purchased things from them that they claim to be inoperable that was fine. So I obviously can't guarantee that everything from them is like that, but they can continue to underrate things.
I mean, I buy all my Nikon gear from them. They just have excellent stuff and good prices on that. So I'm not paid by them, but that's my personal opinion.
They're very picky about their stuff. I know one of the buyers.
Yeah. So real quick, so you have the S2. What lens was that? The 50 f2?
This is the 50 f2. This is 1949 production. So it's the Chrome series, the first Chrome series of the 50 f2.
So that's a much older lens than the body.
Well, the body would
have been 55 or 56, right?
Yeah, my body's 56 if I remember correctly.
Right.
But yeah, this is a lens off an M. So
very cool.
I mean, it's an excellent lens. What can I say? It's a sonar.
Absolutely.
Little else to say about this other than it rocks. Everybody should buy one.
Yeah.
And then finally, I've been a big fan of the Nikon F for a while now. I work as a part-time press photographer, and I do all my work on the Nikon F. And I mean, this is the one I use most of the time. It's a Nikon F Photomic T from 1966. But the cool one I want to show off is I just got this in the mail today.
He's got the meter.
Yes, the selenium meter. Most people don't even know they made these.
No, they weren't common.
And this one still works, so I just have to calibrate it. I have to take it apart and redo it.
And the best thing is you have the standard prism, which is really hard to find.
Correct. And not only that, with the rectangular viewport, these are hard to find. And I have, this is kind of faux pas here. It's a 1964 production 50 f2 Nikkor H. However, I will say my Nikkor S 50 f2 is in the mail as we speak. So
all right,
I'm looking forward to shooting the original, proto Nikon F thing. Oh, it's just so clunky. I love it.
All right. Well, Tim, you have a nice wide selection there of cameras. I we'll have to have you back on again to hear what the other 196 are you have in your
Oh, I'd
collection.
love
but,
to. I can speak for
awesome.
days. All right, thank you for having me on the show.
I don't want to like exclude anybody who's spoken from talking, but I do want to give everybody a chance to talk. So, Bill Vitiello, welcome.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Awesome. I see a nice strobe behind you. It looks like maybe a shelf full of cameras. Not quite sure what's on there, but what do you have for us?
Yeah, it's a bunch of different stuff that's back there, to be honest with you. I'm fairly camera agnostic, to be honest. I just love shooting. I shoot 35 millimeter medium format. Also do 4x5, and I've also dipped my toes into the wet plate collodion. So I'm working on that as well. So, but I mean, I'm always a sucker for a good TLR. That's why I was just looking up at my collection up there. So always enjoy looking down through the ground glass. But you mentioned some cameras that I have in my collection too that I enjoy shooting: the Ricoh 500, the Yashica 635, the Yashica D. Some other TLRs I have here as I look up. So the Rolleicord, I have a Rolleiflex 28D, Minolta Auto Cord, Ricoh Diacord, a Mia C330. So you put them in my hands, I'll shoot them for sure.
Very cool. So do you have a favorite of those TLRs? I mean, you mentioned the Auto Cord and the Diacord, which I love. I mean, I would choose my Auto Cord over my Diacord because I believe it. Here was praising Ricoh earlier. I do like my Auto Cord a little bit better, but one thing the Diacord does better than any other 6x6 TLR that I've ever seen is the focus is controlled by two paddles on opposite sides of the lens. So you can focus that camera with either your left or your right hand without ever having to reposition. The Minolta, of course, has the focus lever sticking out the bottom. So while you're holding the TLR, most people, because the shutter release is on the right, so most people are going to fire the shutter with the shutter release, and then they're going to focus with your left hand. But on like a Rolleiflex, many TLRs, which have a focus knob on the side, you have to focus the camera with your right hand, your left hand, I mean. And then before you fire the shutter, you like move your hand under the camera to support it. And then if you need to refocus, you have to move your hand again to the knob to focus. But with both the Auto Cord and the Diacord, you can control the focus with your left hand, stabilizing the camera, and just kind of flick it with your fingers. And I just thought that was such a clever solution that I'll admit I have not handled any of the later Rolleiflexes. So I don't know, Paul, did they ever adopt like a paddle focus in any of the later Rolleiflexes? No, they stuck with the knob.
They're all wheel.
Yeah.
Focus.
And I mean, obviously they were successful at it. People have been shooting TLRs with knobs since the 30s. Or even what was it, 29, I think, when the first Rolleiflex came out. But the Japanese, Minolta and Ricoh made meaningful improvements to the usability of those cameras, which I really appreciate.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So it's basically terminology: Rolleiflex, Rolleicord. What is the difference between the flex and the cord? I've always wondered that.
It's the difference between a Nikon and a Nikkormet. It's just it's a lesser.
Right.
Lesser design, fewer features.
Okay.
Usually the Rolleiflexes had a self-cock shutter. You cock the shutter when you advance the film. On Rolleicords, you cock the shutter on a lever.
The Rolleicords almost always have a film advance knob, whereas the Flex has a handle.
Okay. Yeah, Rolleicords had Xenar lenses, 3.5s. The Rolleiflexes are going to have a little bit, I don't want to say better, because the Rolleicord lenses are excellent also.
Yeah. Most of them are triplets.
Upgraded lens.
Yep.
Okay. So it's just more features for the one. And the other.
It's a feature thing.
Okay. Thank
you. For the money of what you could find a nice Rolleicord for versus a Rolleiflex, the images you'll get from them are negligibly different, in my opinion.
I do have the in-between model, the T.
Yeah. Oh, I love the T.
I love that camera.
Yeah. That was one of the last that they made that, and you can always, a Rolleiflex T is the one Rollie you can look at and know immediately which model it is.
It's because of this right here, right?
Yep.
On the bottom. So it's got like a chin. So if you can't picture this, if you're listening to the show, picture Rolleiflex, but immediately below the taking lens, there's like a Jay Leno chin that kind of sticks out a little bit. But on one side of it is the shutter release. The other side is the flash sync port. But it's extremely comfortable. Like it's one of those things. Like why didn't they do that on the others? It's quite nice.
Yeah,
but like Paul said, you.
I love the gray leatherette on that.
Yep,
it's beautiful camera.
Hey, Bill, were you in the photo industry? What's your background?
So now, actually, I'm a banker by day. This is a This is a very overly serious hobby for me.
Well, your name is your last name is not an uncommon last name, but there's a guy named Ray Vitiello who is the vice president of Mamiya.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, they call Mamiya America Corporation.
Okay.
He's an old friend. He's been in the photo industry for 150 years.
Okay.
But
I'm a little younger than 150.
Yeah, and you're a lot more knowledgeable than Ray is too. Cool.
Well, thanks for coming, Bill. We'll try
me.
to circle back. Joseph Schallmo. Joseph, you've been really patient, so thanks for listening. Have you been listening to the show a long time, or are you a recent listener?
I guess more recent. I was on a long car ride back from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which is about 4 hours from where I am right now, and I needed something to keep me awake on the 25-mile of Arrow Straight Road in the UP. So I decided to look up camera podcasts, and I found this one.
Wow.
Kind of gotten into it.
What you're saying is this podcast may have saved your life. Like it kept you awake.
Possibly.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Right. Awesome.
You know, we can also have the opposite effect.
That's
Joseph.
true.
So what are you shooting with?
I got my main camera right now is this Minolta X-700. I got it from my grandfather for free, and I can never turn down a free camera. So it's worked perfectly. I'm currently in the mail. I have the Minolta P adapter, so I can mount M42 lenses onto it, so I can use it with more of the stuff that I have. But I also just bought this Sanmar 35 for my C3.
Yes. That lens transforms that camera big time.
Oh, yeah. I've gotten this was actually the first film camera I bought last year because of a certain other person I met at college whose name is Tim Peters, who got me into film photography. And last 2 years ago at this point, I went up to him and was like, hey, this is something I want to get into. And I said, like, what cameras do you recommend starting out? And he said, well, you can either get this Bolsey B2, which I tried out and hated. And then the other one was the Argus C3. And I said, you know what? Sure, why not? And I've been shooting it. I've put 5 or 6 rolls through it. Loved almost every picture I've gotten out of it. I have, of course, the Centaur 3.5, which is one of my favorite lenses of all time. I also have the Sanmar 100 that I've used a couple times. Then now that I have this 35, I've come to the stop of I think I need to get another body because this doesn't have a shoe, so I can't mount a external finder.
Yeah, they made a viewfinder for that camera, and it actually just clips on the entire top plate.
Yeah.
I have one. I don't know if I have a second one of that style, though. Most of them are the later bodies like you're talking about with the real accessory shoe. But the earlier ones, it's like a claw that just grips on.
Yeah.
So you have to keep taking it off every time you want to open the film compartment. That's how they did that.
I've been looking for one of those. I just haven't found anything on it. It's like a real just small part that's very hard to find. And I think it'd just be easier for me to spend another $30-$35 for another body with a shoe on it and then be able to work with that.
Joseph, are you in the UP? You're in UP?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Here's what we're going to do. I just brought home. I'm not sure you're aware, but I have about 1,000 cameras right now that I'm trying to get out of boxes. But yesterday I brought home 2 boxes of Argus C3s, C4s, A3s, C44Rs, and I'll send you one.
Oh yeah.
There's a very good chance one of those is in that box, Paul. This is what you want to look for. It looks the viewfinder looks like that. So it's got a little door that flips down, so you could use it for the 100mm too, or if you take the door off, it's the wide angle one. But it uses a clip that you can see how it grips around the opening for the rangefinder window. So Paul, if you have one of those, that's what he needs.
Yeah, I don't. I have the viewfinder, but it's the Chou model.
Okay.
But Joseph, if you want, I'll be glad to. I'll send you a camera.
Oh yeah,
that has a Chou on it. I mean, I'll give it to you if you want it.
Oh yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. Are you on? Or do you follow us on the Facebook group?
Oh, I can.
Well, if you're on IG or Discord, just go to there and send me a message and give me your address, and I'll ship it out to you.
All right, thank you.
I'll find a nice one.
No, I appreciate it. That saves me a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, and it's worth it. I've talked about that lens before. It's a German lens. It's made by Ennowork. The optics are excellent. And to me, it just transforms that camera because I love the Argus C3s. I love a lot of the Argus cameras. But obviously the viewfinder is tiny, and it can be restrictive when trying to peer through that tiny viewfinder. But getting a wider angle lens with a much larger viewfinder, it to me makes that camera so much more fun to shoot. So, and like you said, the images it makes are really sharp.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else?
I guess the only other thing that I've been kind of getting my feelers out for is that as I've gotten the M42 adapter for my Minolta coming in the mail, is that I'm also looking at adapting DKL lenses from the Retina series, and I've been having my eye on the Schneider 51.9.
Yeah, Joseph, that's a great lens.
Yes,
the adapters are horrible.
Right.
Oh yeah,
the adapters are diabolical. I mean, you get the lenses on, you can't get the lenses off.
The Chinese ones are really, really bad, but I think Young Nuo, there's at least one company that makes a really good decal adapter, but it's like 150, 160 bucks.
Yeah, I've had those and they do work better. But that 51.9 is the best decal lens I think ever made.
Yep. Yeah. It's super sharp.
What do I have, Mike? I've got one on do I have one on the Graflex, the graphic?
That is a decal mount also, but it is.
I have one on the graphic jet, or not the jet. It's the other one.
Not the jet. It's the other one. Yeah, is that's the Iloca one. It is DKL mount, but it's similar to the Voigtländer Bessa, where it's DKL, but it's their specific flavor of it. So for anybody who doesn't know, DKL is short for Deckel. Deckel made the Compur shutters, and in the 60s. In Germany, the Germans wanted to hold on to leaf shutters as long as possible, partially because Zeiss had a controlling interest in Deckel. So they wanted to use as many of those shutters as possible and as many cameras as possible, which is why if you look at the Western German camera industry, so many cameras continue to use leaf shutters. Once they came out with the ability to have interchangeable lenses, Compur or Deckel made their own mount for it, and people have just nicknamed it the DKL mount. So the Kodak Retina Reflex, which is a German Kodak, it was made in Stuttgart. Paul mentioned the Graflex, which is actually, I think, Iloca, I think, made those. Voigtländer Braun, the Braun Paxette, I think, uses it. There's a few. In fact, there's a couple Soviet cameras. The Zenit 4, 5, and 6 use a Soviet version of the Deckel mount. And even though they're all the same, they all have little notches that they put in the physical flange that make them incompatible. So to mount a Voigtländer lens on a Kodak or vice versa, you can't do it unless you grind away a tiny piece of metal, which is super frustrating. But thankfully, those adapters usually don't have any of the notches. So you could usually adapt them. But like what Paul's saying is they're very poorly built. Part of the reason is, unlike most interchangeable SLR lenses, which have the diaphragm control on the lens, with the DKL mount cameras, the diaphragm control is in the camera. So the lens itself does not have an aperture ring. There's like, do you have a Schneider 1.9, Joseph?
Not yet. I'm still looking for it. For a good price on one.
You could find a lot. For some reason, those lenses are often dinged. People tend to drop them a lot. If all you care about is the optics, look for a dinged one. You'll pay significantly less.
I've got a couple on my eBay watch list right now.
Yeah,
I sent out a couple offers and a couple bids for certain ones because I have a friend of mine adapts decal for his Minolta as well.
Find out what adapter he used.
He sent me the link to the exact adapter that he used. So if he's comfortable with that one, I think then I should be fine.
All right. Well, sweet. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I actually have a Schneider 1.9 in my Alpha, so it's kind of interesting.
Wait, hold that up again. That's a very strange combination. You have a Schneider 1.9 in Alpha. Is it an Alpha mount or did you just use an adapter?
No, it's Alpha mount. This is a native one, and it actually it matches the camera. They have that kind of shampoo finish, I guess would be the term. So that's the only Alpha I've ever seen that has a truly matching lens and body.
Is that a 7?
6. It's a 6A.
6A. Okay.
That's the one I sent off to Radu to have repaired an R3 camera months like a year ago, I guess. And I finally got it back a while ago, and I shot with it like once.
It's been good
since then.
Yeah. We've talked about Radu a couple times, and he does great work. I mean, he's the only guy in the United States or North America I would trust with either an Alpha, a Tessina. What else did he specialize in, Paul?
Robot.
Yeah, he does the robots. It's just he's so swamped. He can be very difficult to get a hold of, and when you do, sometimes it takes him a while. But he did my Contacts 1, and it's been great. And I know Paul, you've had some stuff done by him. I know Ira Cohen uses him a lot, and he does great work.
Yeah, because when I sent him this, it had the shutter was clapping really bad, and he was able to fix that. I guess it just needed sort of a CLA, but there's a bunch of dust in the viewfinder. He got that out. He even replaced the clutch spring on the film advance knob. And he said that, and I thought, that sounds a little dodgy, but if he says so, I'll trust him. And I got it back, and it's much firmer, because before, if you were kind of advancing it and you let off, it would snap back, and now it just kind of like stays in place. So there was something to that as well. So he did pretty good work for what it cost and everything. It did take a little while, but I guess that's the price of working with somebody who's hyper specialized like that.
Definitely. Well, thanks for sharing your stuff with us, Joseph. I'm glad to see another person appreciating the Arguses. AJ, there you go. We've talked a couple times. I see a horseman on the shelf behind you. I called out at the top of the show how much stuff you have behind you, and please believe me, I mean that in the most complimentary way possible, because you guys can't see the floor.
I don't have as big a collection as most of you there. I only started actually collecting during the pandemic. As a matter of fact, I work for the largest retailer here in Quebec in the province, and I'm a teacher. So I teach photography mostly to newbies, digital photography and so on. But I was lucky because when I was a kid, 6-7 years old, that's when I was actually introduced to photography. So if you actually look right, if I could get my finger, that camera right there is the first model Minolta that my dad let me steal from his camera bag when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And then obviously I got into digital photography, but now I've gone way back to and like Bill, you mentioned collodion. Well, I'm not there yet. I'm not at the wet plate, but I found a guy in Slovenia who does dry plates. I've actually ordered 3 boxes, so I've already got 10, 20 more on the way. So I'm going to do some dry plate.
Awesome.
If you look back here, this is my baby 4x5. It's a Nagaoka, which is a Japanese company that existed, I believe, from 70 to 81. And that's serial number 35 that I kind of inherited from a member of a photo club I was part of in the 2000s. That Horseman, it's not one of the cameras I was going to show you today, but since you saw it, I have no idea.
It's so distinct looking.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a view camera. Actually, it's a press camera, not a view camera. It's a press camera. And as a matter of fact, it has a Tokyo Kogaku
top core
10.5 centimeter f3.5. And believe it or not, the retailer that I work for, as being one of the more knowledgeable members of the staff, we started buying. We have a a convention that we usually have once a year, which during the pandemic we had to stop, which came back this year, was the first year we brought it back, where we started purchasing used or old vintage film equipment. And about 3 years ago, they had film backs exactly like my 4x5, but much smaller. Like I'm talking, I think it's 2.5 by 3.5. And I'd never seen these film backs before. So I purchased, she had about 15 4x5 film backs. I said, no, I shoot 4x5, so I'll purchase them from you, and I'll throw in that box of those smaller ones, and maybe one day I'll find a camera. And one of my buddies at work gave me this camera as recompense for developing. I think he had given me about maybe 12 rolls of film, 120 and 35, that he had gone on vacation back to France to see his parents. So I developed, and he gave me this camera, and now I have the film back. Now the only problem is I can't find the sheet film. So I'm debating, and maybe you guys can, I'm debating whether I should start cutting up some 120 to fit in the film backs.
Kodak sold it as 2.25 by 3.25.
Oh, it's 2.25, 3.25. Okay.
That's what Kodak called it. If you get it from a European company, it's 6x9.
Okay.
I have an unopened pack of Panatomic X
No
here
way.
It's my favorite film. This is August 1941.
Okay.
So it's unlikely this is any good, even though Panatomic has a long shelf life. But finding fresh, viable 2x3 film is very difficult.
Very difficult.
Ilford does that every year, though, where you have
once
the
a year.
unusual.
Yeah,
Right.
the specialty sale.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll have to keep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to recommend. I had heard there was a Chinese company making 2x3, but I keep hearing about this fictitious supposed Chinese company making 2x3, but I can't actually find any evidence that they either exist or still do it. So I was going to make that same recommendation as Theo for checking out Ilford.
Because I've checked, I mean, the lens, everything works, everything's clean, there's no fog, I mean, it's a beautiful little, I mean, compared to even to my 4x5, it's a much smaller format, footprint.
AJ, I had stepped away. What brand is that, a Lenhoff or a Horseman?
No, this is a Horseman.
Why don't you just get a Horseman back and put on it? Horseman rollback.
Oh, I never thought of that.
I mean, that's the simplest thing to do.
Horseman has a 120 roll back.
Yeah. I have 2 Horseman convertibles.
Really?
On hand right now. Both of them have the 6x9 back.
Oh, I'm gonna have to find it. Well, because talking about 6x9, now I also have. We were talking about Bronicas before. I have the SQ, the SQAI, and the problem with the bloody thing, I took it on vacation this year to see my family, and it's a heavy beast. And I've always wanted to shoot 3.2 on 120, knowing that that's just 6x9. So again, with the pandemic, we usually have a camera swap convention here that's organized in the spring and in the fall, and they brought it back this fall. And I got this baby not 3 weeks ago. It's a Voigtländer Bessa 1.
Yep.
Literally
Mint.
impeccable. I mean, it's clean. I even have, where did I put it? I have the leather case. It's just missing the neck strap. I finished my first film this weekend. So next weekend, the weekend coming up here, I'm going to be developing it to see. There were no light leaks in the, and it shoots 645 and 6x9.
You have the mask.
You got the mask?
Yes.
The mask is the hardest thing. Those masks sell separately for $150 to $200.
You don't want to know what I paid this. Honest to God, you don't want to know. And I'm talking Canadian, not US. Okay, cost me all of $50.
Wow. That's a buy.
Okay,
those Bessa ones are great. I wrote about mine for a while back, and the results from it are just superb. They're really nice. They're really good functional camera.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I really enjoyed using it.
That Arista EDU makes 2.25, 3.25 film, and you can get it from Freestyle. It's in California, but
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I buy it from them.
Are you on the Discord?
You're gonna get dinged on the shipping though.
Well,
but,
yeah,
you know, that's part of the game, I guess, right?
It's fun to shoot it native once or twice.
Yeah, I just would love to try it and see what I can get out of it.
And AJ, just to confirm too, Ilford does have that size film with their special program. I'm looking at it now. They got HB5. They got
really?
Yeah, it's only once a year, and I think it's around the August time frame. I've never ordered anything through it, but if you go onto Ilford's website, you can get to the list.
Okay. I'll do that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
They get it every year at Freestyle too. They buy some of it. You can buy it directly from them, but they're always out of stock except right around August.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. another one of my since I've been getting back into film photography, my store manager had this baby here, a Leica 3F. 19 this one I went, the serial number dates back to 1954. The Bessa, the serial number dates to 1952.
That's a later F2 because it has the delayed action timer.
Okay, yeah,
the self timer.
It doesn't have, obviously, it doesn't have the Leica lens. It's got a Russian lens on it, or Czech. I don't know if it's Czech or no. It's a Russian lens. It's a 50 millimeter. I can't remember what the name is. Pardon?
The Industar, probably.
Yeah, with the little red character on it.
Yeah.
But I've been shooting this for the last 3 years. I love this camera.
Those Industars are fine. I mean, they suffer from sample variation, but if you have a decent copy that's in nice shape, the Industars are very comparable to the Elmar. I don't know that you would notice a difference in the images it'll make. Because
I did at the same kiosk where I got the Bessa, he had a 50 millimeter Leica. I think it was a 1.4. Is it a what? Could it have been a 1.4 or
1.5?
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah. And I mean, it was going for like
crazy money.
Yeah, just crazy money.
And chances are the lens coating was probably compromised on it.
Okay.
I don't know that there's a like, what is it, a Summerit? I can't get Summeron.
I think it's Summeron.
Yeah. Summeret's a 1.5.
Yeah. I don't know that there's
conventions dumb.
Yeah, I don't know that any of them exist that have completely nice lens coatings unless somebody's redone it somehow.
Okay. They were very soft coatings on that lens, but it's still a very good lens. It's just just
so far, like just with the lens as is, I love the results for it.
Very cool.
Now as I was telling you, a lot of my family were doing photography in the 70s, and of course my dad was more Minolta, and my mom's little brother, who's my mentor in photography here and still around, his last film camera at the time was a Nikon F3, which I found. And I don't have it here with me, but in one of my bags, I have the
high eye point finder,
the waist finder, the waist level viewfinder, and I have the HP. This is the high point.
Yep.
And I just love it. I've got a 24 on here. I've got the 50. I've got a 105. And Uncle's been after me for 3 years now to get this camera in his hands.
If there's one lens you should get for it, the Nikkor O 35 millimeter f2.
Nikkor O.
I have that mounted on my F pretty much semi-permanently now.
Oh, really?
Any condition you can put this at, bright sunny day, barely any light, like candlelight, high contrast, low contrast. This is the lens, and they're going for good price nowadays. So
fantastic.
That's the Nikkor O 35 f2. Just get one in AI. You won't be disappointed.
Fantastic.
And that's an F3, so you can still get the non-AI lenses too for that.
Yeah,
it'll still work.
That's a good point. You can stop down meter with that.
You'll save a little bit of money.
I mean, they're a little heavier than what I'm used to using, but hey, listen, what can I say? And my 4x5, this baby over here, anytime I get to you, I've got this is a 210 Schneider.
I was going to ask what lens that was.
That's the 210. I use this one mainly for portrait. It's the Simars S 5.6. I also have I have the Schneider 90, and I also have a Kodak, which I had an extra 127 because my first 4x5 was actually a Graflex, Crown Graflex. I'm hoping that I still have my, I don't know if maybe you guys can tell me. I'm hoping that I kept the Grafmatic film holder, which allows me to put 8. I haven't tried it yet on the Nagaoka, but I'm hoping this might.
The Grafmatics are neat. The way that they advance the film.
Yeah,
cool. They're relatively foolproof too. I mean, they rarely, as long as you got all the septums in there, it's they don't give you much trouble.
So for the wet, not the wet plate, but for the dry plate, I got the Zebra 4x5. So I'm going to try his dry plates. I've reached a point where I've been digital photography. I've been doing it since 2004, since my wife bought me my first Minolta 7D, and this is the year that I decided no more contracts. I want to do photography for myself. I'm sick and tired of doing photography for everybody else the way everybody else wants to see it. I want to do my stuff, And when I start, and Bill, I don't know if you've on Instagram, there's a guy in BC, Asian, Bill. Also, his first name is Bill Howe. Yes. Have you seen his camera? Holy jeez.
Unbelievable.
When I saw the size of that camera, I'm like, oh my God, my wife would absolutely murder me. The fact that he has a roaming dark room in a Voyager bus, holy jeez.
Yeah, he built that himself. It's quite impressive. Quite impressive. For your dry plate, do you have the holders, the 3D printed holders?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's this one here. And this is the new one, the dual holder.
Yeah, that's great.
I can load 2 on here on either side, right?
Perfect.
And the Nagaoka has enough play because it is a thick. I mean, it's a good. If it's not an inch, it's at least 7/8 of an inch thick. Like I said, I mean, I can't wait to put my first plate, which will probably be either this weekend or next week that I'll start doing that.
Hey AJ.
Yes.
Just wanted to say, my wife bought some of those dry plates. And she shot some. We went to a wedding and she shot the bride and groom with those dry plates, and they came out just gorgeous. They had this
fantastic
blue, almost blue tan sort of mixture patina to it.
Okay.
It's really cool. And I was holding this up. This is one that I shot of my wife.
Nice. But just that's a positive or a negative?
That's a positive.
Okay, so it is possible to do the positive.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I think one of the chemicals you have to have is some sodium thiosulfate or something like that
That's correct. Yep.
I can't remember.
Okay, because he doesn't mention that he did a guide video on his site, and I didn't notice that. I thought he was double exposing it. But okay, so all right, but that's what I want to get to.
Yeah, no, just the direct development made it into a positive.
Okay.
Another thing you could do is if you have like a dry plate, and I know the one you showed there was on tin. It looks like a tin type, I believe. What happens is the highlights in that are not actually white; they're kind of gray, and against the black substrate of that tin, it appears as a positive. That's how they used to do the ambrotypes wet plate. They would have the actual glass. Well, it would look like a negative if you have transmitted light, but if you mount it on like black velvet or black paper, it appears as a positive. So that's another thing you could try doing. If you have a developer like Gentile, I know works for this, that turns the actual silver halides into a kind of shiny-ish silver when you develop it. You can actually mount it against black paper, and it looks like a positive. It's called auto reversal.
I know he said he calls this process a direct reversal process, but I'll check it again and see if I can contact him and find out what his process is. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
We've had a lot of requests for a show focusing on like plates and large format, and we've been reluctant to do it for lack of people who could intelligently speak about it. But it would seem that we have quite a few of you guys that would be awesome for that. So
you got to give me a few weeks. Give me a few weeks.
Definitely get Mario, Bill. Yeah, awesome.
I'm game.
One person hasn't spoken yet. Mark, you jumped in after we got started. You've been on the show once before, right?
Yeah, with the East German cameras.
That's right. Yep, Mark, welcome back.
Thank you. I guess I could show my latest and greatest right here is the Yashica 44. I know my lighting went out a little bit, so I'm going to try to push this up a little bit, but it's with the 127 millimeter film, which has been a little bit of a struggle to find, but nevertheless, I did manage to do that. It's one of those estate sales, a little bit with the skin here. I am going to replace that in a couple of days from Camera Skin. Morgan is sending me out something that's hopefully the same shade of grade as this. I was a little bit surprised. I thought I'd have to put a little bit more effort, a little bit more work into this, but I did test it out and it works fine. I mean, it's a great camera, great little camera. Yeah. I'm into TLRs and I just kind of wanted to change it up a little bit with this version. I was hoping to get the baby Rolleiflex, and the person I was buying it from at the very last moment told me that there was some issues with the shutter speeds and didn't really feel comfortable selling it to me. So this is kind of what I ended up with here.
That Yashica 40, yeah, I couldn't agree more. That is every bit as good as the baby Rollie. I've bought leather from Morgan before at cameraleather.com. His stuff is good. equal to Hugo Studio and Aki Asahi, who I don't know is shipping still. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I would encourage you to keep looking for 127. It is out there. But Mark, that Yashica 44 is one of the easiest cameras to adapt to 35 millimeter. I explain how it's done in my article on my site, but
Yeah.
you only need to do two things. The first is you do need to remove one of the rollers. It's just held in by two screws. So what I do is I back off the screws, take the roller out, put the screws back in the holes so you don't lose them. Just save the roller because you will need it again for 127. But then all you do, actually, I guess three things. Then you just stick in the cassette. You can wind the 35 millimeter directly onto a 127 spool, and then you just use pennies or washers to center the cassette in the film chamber. A normal 35 millimeter cassette fits perfectly in there. It just because it wants to wiggle side to side, so you just stick pennies in to center it. And then the third thing is you have to use tape to cover the red window. Since 35 millimeter has no backing paper, you get light leaks. But you can shoot a full-on sprocket rocket, slightly panoramic images on normal 35 millimeter using that camera. And then if you want to go back to 127, it's really easy to do.
Yeah, there's you can get a Raripan film, which is natively 127, and also Shanghai also has the GP3.
Yeah.
Now I've never used Shanghai myself, but I've heard some mixed reports on the quality
People
of that film.
complain about the backing paper is really poor and it does dye transfer onto the film. I've heard a lot of complaints about that. I don't know if that's all their films or just specific ones, but I've shot the Raripan that Theo mentioned a number of times and it's very good.
Yeah.
I think the Shanghai GP3 was actually discontinued a couple of years ago.
Was it? Okay.
I'm
might be
sure
why.
because you still see it floating around, but I'm pretty sure it's just back stock. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was discontinued around like 2014-ish.
And for anybody listening, if you like doing hacks, a third alternative for 127 is something that I've done. Some companies made a bunch of 46 millimeter bulk film. It was used in a lot of like student cameras. You can sometimes find 100-foot rolls of it on eBay, but 46 millimeter is the exact width of 127 film. So unfortunately, it does require a dark room. You have to cut a strip of film to the same length as 127. And ideally, you need a spool of used 127 so that you can reuse the backing paper. But if you're clever enough and you have a few old, like let's say you shoot a roll of Raripan and you're done with it, save the spool, save the backing paper. If you can find some bulk 46 millimeter film, you can start cutting your own film and just, you got to do it in darkness, of course, but you just tape a strip of it back to the backing paper. And then you can shoot. You usually color, it's because Raripan's black and white. But that's yet another alternative if you like finagling with custom film formats in a dark room.
One of the things that surprised me with this camera is I actually was able to use it was easier to scan images. For some reason, the fittings were addressed to 127 as opposed to when I use 120 film. Sometimes it could be a little bit of a challenge to scan that in. So this was fairly easy, and I was a little bit surprised just how simplistic it was.
The image quality is really, really good.
Yeah, no complaints there.
Marcy, did you say something?
No, I was just we were talking about 127 and 35 millimeter, and there's a funky Imperial plastic camera, the Delta, and you can pop a 35 millimeter cartridge right in that. It takes 127, but you just tape it and then tape the red on the back, and it'll shoot right over the sprockets. It's really cool. I love it. I've had a few of them. They pass through my hands, but
very cool.
35, so yeah.
What were you holding up, Paul?
My Polaroid Snap Touch.
I had one of those. Those are great. It's like 1 megapixel.
Oh no, this is like 16. This is the Zinc camera.
Yeah, it also backs up onto like an SD card, and it's like 1
megapixel micro card. But this came from Kirk, so you got an instant thermal print. It's like 15 cents a print. But no, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just shooting a picture of what I was doing here.
Paul took a picture of the Zoom call and just showed us like live as it was developing. That's pretty neat.
That is.
And it stores it in the camera. So if I want more pictures, I can.
That's neat. It's in color too.
Yeah. It's a nice
The
little
other
camera.
cool thing about those is they're also stickers, because you can take the
Right.
backing paper off and it just
Wow.
Or you can make photo booth. You can put 4 pictures on each one of the little sheets. It's a cool little camera. And before I forget, Greg,
Yep.
your lens came.
Yep, just got it today.
Greg is Greg. What did I send you?
Well, you sent me quite a few things, but
Today.
This is one of, I think this is probably the first Canon autofocus lens that they came out with, probably what, in the early 80s?
Probably 80, 82, 83 maybe.
Yeah, it's a 35 to 70. We shot Canon F1s in the Navy. I never had one of these, but I just thought it was really cool because it kind of goes with my early digital stuff. It's an early attempt at autofocus on a film camera. I got another lens here I want to show you guys, though. I went to Dan's auction, the Leica auction he has.
Oh, boy.
And nothing I could afford on the Leica end there. But he had, I collect military cameras, and he had this. This is an Elcan, 6-inch lens that was used on a military KE-28 aerial camera. So it shot 70 millimeter film. And this was made specifically for the Air Force and the Navy. It's this beautiful piece of glass, which is made by Lights out of Canada, who made all kinds of specialty government-only cameras and lenses and stuff, most of them for the Navy. But the reason I bought this one, I bought just the lens. I wanted the camera, but the camera got too out of my price range. I don't know if you guys can read that on there. That sticker, it says Naval Air Rework Facility, Norfolk, Virginia, which is where I work. And it's just absolute proof that this was a Navy-owned lens at one point in one of the squadrons down here in Norfolk, and it's dated April of 74.
Wow, that is awesome. I can see the lens coating through the Zoom call. That's gorgeous.
I would love to figure out how to mount it, although the only thing I think I could mount this on would be like a lens board and maybe shoot it on a view camera.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would ever get this on anything other than that.
Well, there's no focusing. Is there an aperture ring?
No, like there is an aperture down here on the bottom.
Okay.
You can
All right. So it's like the Aero Ectars in the sense that it has an f-stop, but no focusing capability.
Yeah, no focusing because it's designed to be an aerial lens, so it's set for infinity. So you shoot it out of like a helicopter or an airplane. I got one more camera that Paul sent me. Paul's been my nemesis here recently, but
try doing a podcast with him.
Yeah.
It's the Combat Graphic. And of course I had to have it to go with my military cameras, but we haven't quite figured out if it's a civilian version or actually a military version because it's in really, really good shape.
You had 2 of those, right, Paul?
Yeah, but the other one isn't right. The one that Greg has the focusing wheel and the cam on the lens is connected. The other one I have doesn't have the right lens on it, so it doesn't have the cam that you can turn the wheel to focus.
You can actually tell if that's the military version versus the civilian version, because the military version will have little holes in it for where the U.S. government property plaque is
right
or
here.
was.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a military version that somebody repainted. Because I know a lot of the civilian ones were delivered from the factory red painted.
I think that might have come from the Department of the Interior.
I've seen a lot of these too in OD green.
Yes,
that was the contract color. Yeah, olive drab number 3.
Yep. So just a cool camera.
I wish I had one of those.
You know what's funny about this is it came with a flash, which I think is almost insane if you think about it being a combat camera. I don't know where you use a flash in the field. Maybe it, unless you want to get shot. So
no, what happened was, and I know this because I have a ground camera C3, which is the Army version, the Signal Corps version of the Graflex Speed Graphic, and mine was used during World War II, and it has a Graflex synchronizer bracket on the side. And what happened was that wasn't used for combat. Right before World War II, the U.S. government mandated that all official Army photographs, all file photographs, had to be taken on 4x5 film. So that was for something like
like a ceremony or something like that.
A ceremony or something. Yeah. Although if it's just like a medal being presented, they wouldn't do 4x5 because that's an unofficial photograph. They'd use a Kodak 35 for that.
Right.
But stuff around a base or whatever.
It's probably for the DA photo, like the official photo they take of everybody.
Yeah, like that. The synchronizer would be used for that. Correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of times of course, these cameras, the ground camera C3 would be a whole outfit in a Foot Locker, and they wouldn't, make combat cameras and base cameras, so they just gave those all around.
I wanted to say one other thing too. You guys were talking about Bronica earlier. I don't have it up here, but we shot Bronica in the Navy. That's what I learned on in the 80s. And I love that camera, the ETRS and ETRS-Is. I have the whole kit out back that the Navy had. It has the 120, the 220, the 70 millimeter back, the motor drive, the 40, the 75. I'm trying to remember what the longer lens was. I want to say it was like a 90 or 100 millimeter, 100 millimeter. 100 millimeter macro, and then it came with this oddball lens. I always thought it was a piece of garbage. It was like a 150 to 250 zoom for that Bronica.
What specific model was that? Just out of curiosity.
We shot the ETRS, and there was a intermingling of ETRS-Is in there from time to time. But
I was just wondering because I've seen some around. I went to the air base in Houston, and they had all their old cameras saved in the PAO office, and they had a Bronica. And I can't remember exactly what type it was, but I opened it up. It had the motor drive, and I opened it up, and batteries had been sitting in there for like 30 years, so it was like melting.
Yeah,
and I was like, figures. But and they had a couple other kind of interesting ones, but I was surprised they'd saved them all because usually they get like stolen or dermoed or something. So
yeah, but I mean most of that stuff's gone these days.
Yeah.
Once we went to digital, everybody just dumped all that stuff. So you better see it.
Yeah,
that's a fun camera to use. I've got both of those.
Everybody wanted a Hasselblad, because those were the cream de la cream of medium format cameras, but the Bronica held up just fine. I mean, it was a beautiful camera, and those lenses are really, really good. They're sharp corner to corner.
Yeah, they were the scrappier company.
Well, I mean, a lot of people that have used Bronica seem to really like them, and I had great results from the one I shot too, but it nobody repairs them. So what happened with Bronica that caused them to fall out of favor? Was it just everybody learned Hasselblad and just didn't want to learn Bronica, or
Mike, I don't think they ever really fell out of favor. They were not an enthusiast market. They were a pro market.
Okay.
Like wedding photographers really loved them. The ETRs were great for wedding photographers because they had leaf shutters, and they were also a 645, so they enlarged to an 8x10. And for professionals, they were great. The 645 Mamiya was also used by some wedding photographers, but it was more of an enthusiast camera. Serious amateurs, and not really so much professional. But the ETRs, they were an excellent camera and very well, and they can still be repaired. It's just there are not as many people to repair them.
I gotcha.
And there are people. There isn't anyone like Bill Rogers, who specializes in Bronica. But they're really pretty trouble-free too.
Because, like I said earlier, my S2 works great. Other than the issue with the foam, it's caused my ground glass to go out of sync with the film plane. So everything I shoot comes out blurry.
No, S2s, you're right. But S2s are easy to repair. I mean, they're just strictly mechanical. When you get into the ETRSs and the GS1s and SQs, then you're into electronics.
And they get worn. There's a lot of them that would wear. The gears on the backs would wear because they'd use them so much in weddings.
That and the other thing is that they were shooting when Kodak came out with T-Max films. T-Max films are thicker, and that put a lot more wear. Cameras really weren't designed to use T-Max film. They were meant for thin emulsion films, thin base films. So that also created some wear.
We're gonna have to yell at Robert Shanebrook for that one.
It's his fault.
This GS1, as far as I can tell, works. But the thing that has me most excited, because I like wide angles, this has the 50 millimeter.
Oh yeah.
So the lens cap is like a coaster.
Those are beasts.
I think they made a fisheye lens for that Bronica too, didn't they, Paul?
Yeah, they made a 30.
Yeah, it was
30. Okay,
really wide.
It's amazing lens.
They made a dizzying array of lenses for those cameras.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and those early ones had the Nikon lenses on them, which were really cool.
Right. That's why I like my S2 is it's a Nikkor lens. We talked about the lack of Nippon Kugaku never really got in the medium format. Bob Rodoloni's been on, and we talked about how when they were researching building the first Nikon rangefinder, they had plans to make a TLR and scrapped it because they couldn't find a leaf shutter sufficient enough to, up to their standards. So they ended up going with the Nikon. It was just called the Nikon back then. But There really was never an official Nikon medium format camera, yet Nikkor lenses have been found on IRAs, TLRs. They're obviously on the Bronicas. So like if you wanted to know what it's like to shoot Nikkor glass in medium format, there's no better option than an early Bronica. Plus, they're just gorgeous. I mean, those are so pretty. They remind me of like a 50s automobile with all the chrome. It just, if you get one in cosmetically nice shape, seeing that chrome glistening next to the black leather is mesmerizing.
I just found something fun. 2x3 Grafmatic.
Yeah, those are not too useful. But
I know I use a film back on mine.
Yeah.
Oh, I have here what predates that. This is the film magazine here.
Film bag mag. I got one of those.
Yep,
nice
the bag mag. These things, if you ever used one of these, are so finicky. And
12 septums.
Yeah, with the septa in them. The button to remove the back of them here is on the side, right where you hold it. And if you press that, it ejects all the film. So they really improved upon that with the Grafmatic, I'll say. Although this is convenient to shoot 12 shots immediately of 3x4.
I actually have about 10 4x5 ones. I use them a lot.
Well, we have had a tremendous show. I've loved hearing all your guys' stuff. I, believe it or not, had brought some guests I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe I'll talk about another show, but the one that I do have to mention is I'm really looking forward to shooting this camera. This is called a National Graflex. It was Graflex's first attempt at a 120 roll film camera. It's like a miniaturized version of some of the bigger ones with the waist level hood. But the reason I'm bringing it up, since it came up, is that this has a Bausch & Lomb Tessar lens on it too. I don't think it's going to show up, but the ring says B&L Tessar IC F35 Graflex Rochester, USA. So this one's in great shape. I've actually test fired the shutter and it is firing. So seeing that it fired at all, I just stopped and I'm like, all right, I'm going to put a couple or at least a roll of film in here and see if I can get any shots on it. If I can at least get even a mirror selfie out of this, maybe I could write a review of it or at least say I shot one of these. But
do you have the telephoto lens for it? Do you have the tele lens?
No, I don't have any other than what you see here, just the base lens.
They made another lens for it, yeah.
Did they?
That ring pops off to the top. You push up on that flange and it pops off.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't even know it was interchangeable.
Yeah, it comes right off. It's just like a C-clamp.
I got you.
You got to be careful of the door too, because you see the door has the little lugs on it.
You either have to have the shutter cocked or not cocked. I can't remember, but the door won't shut unless the shutter is set specific. Yeah, cocked then. Kind of like
you break them real easy that way.
Like the Rolleis 35, our favorite camera to talk about. That camera, you can't collapse the lens unless the shutter's cocked also. But one more piece, we talk about gas all the time, and I always ask you guys to share with us your gas. But us, even though like we're, the hosts, and I'm saying that in air quotes, we're just the guys who are on every episode of this show. We are not immune to gas. And after the Yashica episode, even though we didn't spend a lot of time talking about it, it reminded me of one Yashica camera that I've just wanted for so long. And I just said, screw it. I'm gonna go get one. But I ended up with the Yashica Nikka after Yashica took over Nikka. So it is engraved Yashica YF, but it still has the Nikka plate on it. But this is their very last interchangeable lens. It's like a thread mount rangefinder. It's got the film advance lever. It's got the Leica M3 style door on the back. So even though it's a bottom loader, you can swing the door down to be able to see the film plane, inspect the shutter. Cosmetically, this camera is in great shape. The viewfinder is clear. The rangefinder works. Very minor vertical error, but not a big deal. The shutter fires, but it does have pinholes. So Paul had recommended Alan at CameraWorks in Latham, New York. So I've already contacted him. He said it's a shutter he can repair. So I'm going to send this one off and get some new curtains on it. But this was kind of a bucket list camera for me and a good example of one of us falling for our own gas. Paul, we lost Anthony. He had to get to bed a little bit earlier tonight, but Paul or Theo, any last things you want to cover before we sign off?
No, I think we've covered lots and lots today. I think might save things for the next episode.
Yeah. Paul?
Nope, I'm all good. We're, the only thing I've got right now, I have too many camera straps.
Another strap episode?
No, I decided I think I'm going to keep this black paint M4.
Okay.
Just because I don't think I had a black paint M2 and I sold it, and I know I'll never see another one. So
no.
And I've got a Sumilux, a black Sumilux that fits it pretty well. So I think
Paul, you have earned the right to keep that camera.
But the one I really wanted to keep was the #2 Brownie. And the reason is it has a Yellowstone Park sticker on the side of it.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I can't tell if somebody put this on here or if it was sold in a shop or something in Yellowstone Park.
Like as a souvenir camera?
Yeah, souvenir camera.
That's probably, I would guess that's probably what it is. I doubt it's anything official by Kodak.
And it's Yellowstone Park, which was before it was Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah, so that's clearly an old sticker. I would be, and it's on there pretty centered. Like I don't.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it looks like it was done, not just slapped.
My guess is some park ranger or someone in the souvenir shop got a bunch of them and said, "Hey, let's sell our own cameras."
Yep,
that is cool. So again, I mean, thank you guys, everybody on this episode for showing up. We really wanted to do this episode and get as many of you as possible, and you definitely answered the call. I really am excited to have you all here. I honestly wish I could have talked to many of you guys more because you guys have so many cool stories. We're definitely going to do this again. We don't yet have anything planned for the next episode. It's been getting harder and harder to find experts with specific topics in mind. So we find that, by winging it and doing these guest episodes or listener shows are really easy. But I love collaborating with you guys. Like I mentioned in the last episode, we have the Discord server, which we've hit over 100 members, which is really awesome to see. I think someone had mentioned that the join link had expired, so I created a new one. I'm still kind of learning how Discord works and everything, but very cool. It's a slightly different experience in Facebook that's not prone to all the ads and Mark Zuckerberg's choices for what order you see posts in. We have a gallery where you could share your own gas and talk about specific cameras that you've bought or want to show off. A section where you could show your own photography. Tim, I'd love to see some images from those earlier cameras you talked about earlier.
They're already posted.
Awesome. Very cool. I'll have to check them out tonight after I go to bed because I'm getting tired here. We will record episode 61 2 weeks from tonight on Monday, December 11th at the usual time. We don't yet know what the show is going to be about, but we'll be sure to include that in the show announcement as we usually do a couple days before the recording. As always, the topics and discussions on the Camerosity podcast are entirely decided by you guys, influenced by you guys. We like to start it off somewhere, but I would have never in a million years would have thought that 3/4 of the cameras that were brought up in this episode would have been brought up. Marcy, always great to see you. Mario, Julienne, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Sam, Tim, AJ, you guys are awesome. Bill, the other Bill signed off already, but you guys were great, fresh voices. I'd love to hear from you guys again. Please believe me, you're welcome to join on other shows. But that's it. You guys have a great night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for the experience.
Good night.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red. Oh, horse is a horse, of course, of course. Unless the horse is the famous Mr. Red. And get right to the source and ask, of course. And give you the answer that you'll and horse you'll always up. Steady goes conductor, Mr. Red. People can he act the straight. Mr. Red will never speak. He has something to say.